Our lives are meant to be messy and imperfect.
Hi guys, welcome back to The Work Within. I'm Diamond Simons.
And I'm Sami Iman, and today we're going to talk about guilt and shame and how they can have adverse effects on your life.
Let's talk about it.
So a situation came up and which caused us to have a conversation about guilt and shame. So we were like, let's do a video about it because we had so many great things to say. One of the biggest things was that guilt and shame we use in our lives all the time, but I feel like we combine them and not separate them how they should be separated. So
Right.
Guilt is more, you did this action, maybe someone didn't like it, and you feel guilty for what you did, and that's great. You need to feel guilty. You can grow from guilt. You can learn from guilt, like, okay, maybe I shouldn't do that to this person in the future. Whereas shame is, I'm a bad person for doing this to this person. And you cannot grow from shame. Shame is telling yourself who you are as opposed to saying, okay, well, maybe this action wasn't right. And with, I know for myself, I struggle with shame a lot. Actually, and I feel like it's a big component in the depression and anxiety epidemic that our country has as it is, or the world has, truthfully, because we forget to separate guilt from shame. Like, I can be guilty and learn from that, but I can't be shameful because shameful has an adverse effect on me because it's saying, you're this person when you're not that person, and your soul is telling you you're not this person. And so now you have this conflict inside of you which creates all this negative energy, all this weight, and then it gets to the point where it's hard for you to find your way out of that. I know for myself, I struggled with depression since I was a kid and never really knew how to work my way out of it. I called my depression cycles because it's like it starts high and then you end up in this little cyclone until you're right at the end where you're in a ball crying in a corner. That was my life. And it was easy to hide when I lived by myself. But when you don't live by yourself, you live with other people, everybody else gets pulled into the cyclone, just like a tornado. Everybody gets affected by it. And I finally got to the point where I was like, I need to figure this out. I need to break this cycle because it's affecting my health. It's affecting my mental health. And, I felt like there was just no hope. And, depression a lot of times can lead to suicidal tendencies and thoughts. And, not to say that I didn't have those growing up, but I didn't want to get to the point where I would act on it, So there was a point in time when I was fortunate enough to be a part of this organization where we were afforded mentors. And I told my mentor about the struggles that I was having, and she suggested this amazing book called The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown. And the book itself, overall, is being okay with being imperfect. Like, we are not perfect beings, and therefore we shouldn't strive to be perfect beings. We should be okay with being clumsy, with maybe not making the right decisions, or maybe not living up to expectations of other people, and instead trying to live up to our own expectations. And even then, if we don't live up to our own expectations, it's okay. Our lives are meant to be messy and imperfect, and being okay with that. But what spoke to me the most in the book was when she went into the differences between guilt and shame. and how they can have adverse effects on your life.
Yeah, and I've never read the book, The Gifts of Imperfection, but Samia did send me a TED Talk where Brene Brown was talking about the difference between guilt and shame, which actually I could relate a lot to. But basically, guilt is when you do something, for example, you slap your mama. So you slap your mama. You slap your mama, it's Thanksgiving dinner. Everybody saw you slap your mama, and they're like, you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
You know, your mom's ticked off and she doesn't forgive you for weeks, and okay, you're like, yeah, okay, I feel guilty, I slapped my mama, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
I feel guilty. But when you take it to a whole nother level is when you say, dang, I'm a terrible child, I slapped my mother, that's not right, I shouldn't have done that, she's probably going to disown me, I'm terrible, I can't believe I would have done something like that, I'm no good.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between like, oh, I probably shouldn't have done that, maybe I won't do it again, versus I am a terrible person, I can't believe I did that to someone I love.
Yeah.
So I could relate a lot to that because I'm personally, not to go into too much detail, but going through something where I have to make a decision that affects other people. So other people around the Thanksgiving table are looking at me like, are you going to slap her? And so here I am having to make a decision if I'm going to slap my mama or not.
Right.
And sometimes I feel like, you know what, because of the decision I have to make, it's going to upset people, and I'm a bad person for making this decision. But I have to come to the realization that I'm not a bad person. I just have to decide what's right for me. I have to be just a little bit selfish and do what I know is right for me, even if it upsets other people.
Right.
And it's okay to feel guilty a little bit, like, okay, well, now I know what not to do in the future.
Right.
But as of right now, this is something that needs to be done.
Yeah.
So, not feeling too guilty. Or not feeling too shameful.
Right.
But a little guilt.
Right. Yeah. Because the thing about it you have to understand is that when you talk to yourself, just like we talked about in the affirmations video that we did, you are telling yourself, this is who I am. So when you say, I am a terrible person, you know, or I'm a horrible girlfriend or a horrible wife, or I'm a bad daughter, or, you know, bad son, if you have any guys watching, then that's how you're going to feel all the time. And then what's going to happen is that situations are going to come into your life to reinforce that.
Yeah.
And so, which then will also bring you into a situation where you get further and further down into this rabbit hole of shame, as opposed to saying, you know what, I'm not a bad person. I might feel guilty for
I made a bad decision.
Yeah.
And I feel guilty for making that decision.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, you know, and the thing about it, and the way to, or at least the way that helped me combat my shame, was to forgive myself. So there's this whole thing about forgiveness, and it's like, yes, if there was someone else in the situation who may have done something that may have caused you to do something else, you know, the whole cause and effect. And they say, you know, you have to forgive the other person, but it's not for them, it's for you, which is absolutely true. Mm-hmm. But then you also need to forgive yourself. And that's the hardest battle, because I feel like we are always more critical of ourselves than we are of other people. And with that, it's a lot harder for us to say, you know what, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. I'm not a bad person. You know, I'm a great person. I maybe should have taken a different path instead of the path that I took.
Yeah.
And telling yourself that it's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to not live up to other people's expectations. It's okay to not even live up to your own expectations sometimes, you know, but you can learn from that. And with that, you don't drag yourself into this rabbit hole of shame that's harder to get out of.
Yeah, and so if you make a decision that wasn't the best one, just look back and reflect on the decision and say, you know what, that wasn't right, but I forgive myself for doing that. Today's a new day. It's new year coming up. So I'm just gonna wipe the slate clean, and even though there still may be people that are upset with the decision you made and you feel guilty because people are still walking around with chips on their shoulder, but just recognize that that was something you did, past tense, and the future will be different because you know not to do that again. Just don't shame yourself for it. Don't say that you're terrible for doing it. Just say, you know what, that was a decision that I decided to make then, and I'm going to do better in the future.
Right.
But
and then, and also make amends with whoever you need to make amends with too, if that's going to help you in forgiving yourself. So if you need to go apologize to someone, do that. Because a lot of times, like, things happen to us and then we also feel shame because we allowed something to happen that maybe we didn't like. And in that regard too, forgive yourself for it. You know, again, we're imperfect. We're supposed to make mistakes. We're supposed to learn from them, but don't shame yourself because of it. Just learn from it and move on.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is leave a link down in the description to Brene Brown's TED Talk, which I highly recommend you go check out, and a link to her book so you can read it if you would like. Like I said, it was truly beneficial to me. And I think that if you are dealing with issues of shame, then you definitely need to read it as well.
So if you want to leave comments below about how you deal with shame or guilt, maybe something that'll help someone else out and help them feel better about themselves and their decisions, just leave that below. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we always like to interact with you guys, so definitely let us know, and we will talk to you soon. Bye guys.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. We love you. We appreciate you. If you like what you saw today, then make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, turn on that notification bell. Love ya.
Look at them lips, girl. Look at them lips. Look at them eyes, girl.
It's 1:15 already.
Look at them eyes.